Hello, you're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. Because it's more fun to believe. Welcome to another experience of Me and Paranormal You. Well, okay. You just never figured out after 9 years how to intro the show. Thank you for listening. Wow, figured out, really traversed through some technical difficulties that came out of nowhere, that were unexpected and very strange. I will 100% attribute them to the haunted house that we are in.
Ooh.
So my buddy Sarah is here. We are in the house. We talked, I think it was a couple years ago at least, probably now, right?
Yeah.
And I'm having a great run here. Just a couple nights ago, I was at Poasttown Elementary School from about 6:30 p.m. till 4:15 in the morning. So yesterday was just nothing but a kind of a decompress, like try to catch up. I slept until like 1:30.
That sounds great.
I mean, I probably didn't get to bed till almost 6, but
It's the way to roll.
a crazy night at Poasttown Elementary School. So from one haunted place to another, here we are in the house. Lots of stories about this house that we're going to get into. So thanks for having me over.
Thanks for coming. You finally saw the schoolhouse, another schoolhouse.
Oh, that's right.
Because you were just at a schoolhouse, Poasttown, right?
Yeah.
And now you're at this schoolhouse.
This house used to be a schoolhouse.
Yes. Pine Grove Elementary. Pine Grove Schoolhouse. And it was a one-room schoolhouse in the late 1900s. And I'm not sure exactly when it was.
Or the late 1900s?
It was built. I'm not sure exactly when it was built. I think it was the 1800s. It burned down and they built it back in its footprint. So the late 1900s is when it shut down.
So like by the year 2000, right around the year 2000. Was it that recently ago?
No.
Yeah, that's what I was like, wait, the late 1900s is like 1999.
1800s. I'm losing
Okay,
my
got
mind.
Okay,
No,
got it.
Late 1800s. Yes. So, and then my grandparents bought it in 1935, something like that, and transitioned it into their house. So the schoolhouse went defunct and they bought it, turned it into a house. My grandfather and all of his German friends who had come over on the boat dug the basement by hand. It is a very near and dear to my heart. This house is so.
Yeah, I mean it's a cool. I mean it is brick, which I love.
It's brick. It's got some. I don't know. It just seems to be made out of whatever they had handy, honestly.
Yeah, and I could only imagine if you're here at night, there is, because it was part of a 27-acre plot or something.
24, yeah,
24
we had
acre
24
plot.
acres. And I am pleased to only have 3 because it got a little hairy out there. There was too much wilderness. People would wander in because we had the railroad on one side, we had the airport on another side, and then we had the highway on the other side. So it boxed us in, and the railroad, there were just like people wandering all the time.
Just strangers wandering on your land constantly.
Super spooky, yes.
And not to mention, enthusiasts of firearms as well.
Yes, I was not into it. When I was younger, it was fine. My dad was here, but as I got older, I was like, yeah, maybe not. So now we only have 3 acres, and that is perfect because we still have land. We still have enough that my son is convinced Bigfoot lives back there. But
well, you do have a giant, and I took a photo of it. Maybe I'll post it. A giant, what many Bigfoot enthusiasts would call a tree structure, but it is within 15 feet of like the garage, and because of what you said with the airport, the highway, and there's also like the main street that we're off of here. I would be very surprised if it was. I mean, I would be. I think I would even be. You might even say shocked if it was indeed a Bigfoot structure. I mean, they are big trees that have fallen to form a perfect triangle. It is, at the very least, interesting, and it is really kind of fascinating how they form this perfect triangle of these huge giant trees that fell into one. But if it was a Bigfoot living that close, just hanging out like literally right next door, I think there would be some indication to you
that he's hanging out.
Whether because it is muddy and rains a lot, there would be. You would have seen a footprint or something. There is fresh water right there.
You know, my son has just always been. It's because I started too young, I think. I talked about it, and he loves the idea of Bigfoot, but he's like, I'm not going outside. And I'm like, why? And he's like, Bigfoot's out there. I'm like, you're 11. We have got to go outside. But yeah, I don't think it's Bigfoot. I always am like, I'm going into another dimension because it feels like, I don't know. It was like one day those trees were standing up straight. The next day they were both in up here, like a triangle.
So it happened on the same day. They fell in opposite directions toward one another.
Yeah, into one tree. They both uprooted in opposite directions.
That is interesting. And that is not to say that Bigfoot could not have come in from... There's 20 acres right back there of nothing but woods and stuff. So it could have came in and been like, okay, well, let's mark this part of your territory, and this is where mine starts. Now that we're talking about this and the fact that they both uprooted on the same night, and was there a storm that night?
There was a storm, but I've been here through so many storms. Like, I'm 42, and I've seen trees uproot, but never two trees and never opposite directions. Like, usually it is going one direction and everything in that path kind of gets uprooted. I don't know. It just is strange. And why would they fall on the exact same tree? It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it is interesting. Now I'm actually
Spooky.
starting to convince myself that it might be a Sasquatch now, which is, I mean, at night I could imagine it is a whole different vibe out here.
I mean, I am used to it. I'm totally used to it. But I have a friend. It's a friend I told you about who... she was going to dog sit, and we're in New Orleans, and she calls me and she's like, hey, yeah, I'm real sorry. I can't do this. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, it is far too dark and it is bad out here. And I was like, bad how? And she's like, nope, not doing it. And I said, why? But it was too spooky. She couldn't do it.
So, I mean, that is interesting when someone shows up to your house and then they're here not even for the... and they're just like, I'm gone.
Yeah.
I cannot, because there are things you can do. I mean, we all know that there's things you can do. You can keep the lights on. You can put a TV show on, watch a movie, listen to music, get on the internet, talk to your buddies on the phone or whatever it is you want to do to kind of remove the quiet, eerie, scary sounds, right?
Right.
But when you're in a place that has that vibe for you, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter how many things you've got going on, you will not be able to escape the fright.
Yeah, she was just like, I cannot do it. And she has been here before. She'd been here a bunch of times, and she was like, yeah, I can do it. And I warned her. I was like, look, it's really dark back there. Like, are you going to be freaked out? And she's like, no, not at all. And then she got here, and she's like, nope, not going to do it.
Here's what would set me off. Hypothetical. I'm house sitting this place. It's night. The dogs are in here. Next thing you know, they won't stop barking at the back door or whatever, right? They just will not stop.
Right.
And it's late, maybe like after midnight. I try to get treats to get them to stop. Maybe there's a squirrel or a raccoon or something. I don't know if you have that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's so many trees. It's all wilderness, so of course you have other little critters.
Right.
But if I knew in advance that the dogs don't go bonkers over squirrels or raccoons, which I don't know, do they?
Sometimes, not always.
But not like for like a prolonged 5 straight minutes of barking.
No.
And then
I'd freak out.
If this was happening and then there's some loud noise out there.
Oh gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
Like a bang on the garage or something.
Yeah.
Then I would be like, Audi 5000. That's when I'd make the call, even knowing I'm waking you up probably or whatever. And I'd just be like, I'm sorry. If you want, I'll take the dogs with me in my car, but I don't know where we're going, but I can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I would be to the point of if I felt something was aggressively coming for me, then I'd be gone.
Right.
Because there's only so much NyQuil you can take.
It was very funny. I mean, it wasn't funny in the moment. I was like, what the hell? What am I going to do with my dogs? We worked it out. But looking back, I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, it is. What's interesting, too, is that you don't really have control. I mean, you can get yourself worked up and things like that, right? But at least I know I can't. But for the most part, you don't really have a control over what suddenly scares you.
Right.
And 2 nights ago, we were investigating Post-Town. It's just me and my buddy Eric. It's just the two of us. And it's, I don't know, 9:30. It's super dark in there. And we both have cameras. He does a live stream. He live streams all of his these solo investigations. And I just joined him, right? And all of a sudden, people are like, I saw something. They saw something on the screen, right? Because we're not always looking at the phone or the screen. We're walking around, and it's just filming it. But they're like, I think we saw a bat. And we're like, a bat? They're like, a what? You saw something? And then next thing you know, this bat is flying at our face. And it happened multiple times. And because right when you come around the corner, next thing you know, the bat's there. And
oh my God.
It's scary.
Yeah.
I could not control my reaction.
Oh my God.
Right? At one point I think I learned when I get scared when a bat's flying right at my face when I come around the corner in the dark, apparently I just go but so yeah, your friend probably she wasn't or they weren't anticipating whatever came over them, right? And whatever happened.
Oh no, she could not handle it. She could not handle it at all. She'd been here a bunch of times and it hadn't been an issue.
Had she ever seen anything or experienced anything at this house previous?
I think she had at that point. But she hadn't been she's kind of like that where she sees stuff sometimes and it doesn't bother her. So she had been here one time helping me clean. I had inherited a bunch of stuff and I was trying to put stuff away. And she was here and she went up the stairs and she said, who just went up? Did he just go upstairs? My ex-husband. She's like, did he just go upstairs? And I said, no, he's downstairs on the couch. And she said, well, who just went upstairs? I just saw a man go upstairs. And I said, no one went upstairs. There was no one else here. And she's like, I just saw a man go upstairs. So she's definitely seen something. She couldn't explain who it was or why they were going upstairs. And I didn't see anyone. She didn't see anyone once she got upstairs, but she didn't seem particularly freaked out by that person and just kind of went about her business. And I was just like, oh, well, okay. Because that's just kind of how this house is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's something I have never seen a full body apparition where I mistook them for a person.
Really?
Those are pretty. I mean, those are pretty intense, I imagine. But then you hear stories where if you have no reason to think that they were a full body apparition, excuse me, I just had a hiccup or a burp, kind of a combo. It wouldn't freak you out, right? Because you would just think you saw a person, which is normal, which happens all the time. And then later, you're just like, oh, well, that's weird.
Well, after my dad died, my friend Michelle was here, and she's backing out of the driveway, and she looked back in her rear view mirror and she saw my dad. My dad had been dead for weeks, I think, at that point. She's like, he was wearing his outfit because he always wore jeans, white t-shirt, and he had suspenders all the time. That was like his uniform. It wasn't a uniform, but that was just his look. And slicked black hair. And she's like, it was him. I pulling out of your driveway, and it was him just standing there. And then I looked away, I looked back, and he was gone. So she saw him. That was early on. I think that might have been the first weird ghost situation we had here. Of course it was my dad. So and then the stairs situation was much later, and I don't know who that was. She didn't really get a good look. She just knew it was a man going up the stairs. So
yeah, these are the type of stairs that you would hear someone walking up to, right?
Right. And I didn't hear anything, and she didn't either. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about was your aunt, right?
Oh yeah.
This is one of those. This gets into like an area that to me is really fascinating because you hear about this every once in a while. These are pretty, I think, if I had to characterize these, I'd say these are pretty strong. Like, this is a pretty high energy, intense, like kind of ghost action, spirit activity situation. When we're getting into the audio, the world of things that we're hearing and interacting with devices. For me, it almost seems more intense than seeing like a full body apparition, and to some degree. But let's pause real quick. We'll throw a couple commercials in here real quick. And just as a reminder to people, you can go to patreon.com/Ryan Singer. You can get all of the experiences ad-free over at Patreon at $3 or more per month. As long as you're at the $3 level, boom. No commercials in your in your experiences. So pop on over there. Thank you to all the patrons who have been supporting every month. I truly appreciate it. Another great, wonderful year, 2022. Although we're probably in 2023 when this comes out. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What is time? So jump over there. Okay, we're back.
Hello.
So now this is probably one of the most intense things about this house from the stories you've told me, and at least as far as what really resonates with me. So just take it from the top for me on this one.
So my dad, I'm trying to think how to best explain. My dad had passed away, and my aunt, about a month earlier, it was an aunt by marriage, and she passed away a month earlier in the same hospital. And she was a character, like such a character. She had this real thick kind of accent, and she sounded like she smoked 1 billion cigarettes, and it was the most her voice. Yeah, no mistaking her voice. And so I get home, and this is when everyone had like an answering machine and a home phone, and it was me and my mom. I lived with my mom, and my dad had just died, and we're listening to the machine, and it's all like crackly, like white noise, like shh, and we just hear my dead aunt. My aunt had died a month before my dad did in the same hospital. We hear my dead aunt say, "It's okay, Charles, you can come now." And hold on, let me do it right. "It's okay, Charles, you can come now," or something. It was horrifying because she was a interesting lady. Anyway, it was very much her voice. My dad's name is Charles, and it was like all fucked up and far away, like and then it just went dead. And my mom looked at me, and then she's like, "Huh." And then she never talked about it again until about a year before she died, when I brought it up to her. And she's like, "Well, yeah, that was weird. That's all she would ever say. But she was totally freaked out.
Yeah, I mean, because this was, and so just to make sure that I've got the timeline right, this was right after or right before your dad had died?
My dad had just died.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I think maybe a week, 2 weeks before.
Now, so we've got that. And so then a week or 2 weeks later, you have the aunt coming through the answering machine.
Yes.
When was your friend pulling out of the driveway when they saw your dad? Was that after the answering machine message or before?
You know, I have no idea. I don't know. Because I honestly don't think she told me right away, because I think I was too much of a mess
to be like, oh, by the way.
Yeah, she did not tell me right away.
No, I understand that. That makes sense.
But I will have to ask her now, because I've never thought about that.
Because then that is, to me, indicative of your dad hanging around.
It definitely felt.
And your aunt sending a message like, hey, Charles, it's okay. Come on.
Yeah.
You can come now.
I played that recording to my friend who saw him. She still talks about it quite a bit.
Oh my goodness. Like, you don't have that recording anymore.
I wish I did. No, I do not. But I will tell you, I got a similar recording not too long before my mom died, and all the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and it was about Gabriel. It was from a wrong number, and it was just static. It didn't say anything. It was just static. And then I tried to call it back, and no one answered. And then I got a text that said, if this relates to Gabriel, something. But the wording was strange, and it was in a way that woo people talk. Like, if this connects to you, or if this, it was a very oddly timed. My mom had just whipped out this like coin. She was going through chemo, and she had whipped out this coin I'd never seen. And it was like a medallion with an angel on it. And it was that morning and her first day of chemo. And then that afternoon I got that phone call, and it was like, if this relates to Gabriel, and all the hair on the back of my neck stood up, mostly because it was that white noise. I just can't. I can't. And then probably about 3 days before my mom went into the hospital, I had a dream. I woke up I guess it was a dream. I woke up in my bedroom. I felt like I woke up. I looked over, and I heard that noise. I heard that noise in my bedroom, and I saw my dad's face. And my dad has been dead since I'm 18. I'm 42. I never see him in my dreams. And it was my dad's face, and it was like flickery, and it was that freaky white noise, and I couldn't understand what he was saying, because it sounded like you're tuning a car, the
stereo inside the car.
Yes, it sounded like that. And then it took a while, but I finally just realized he said, I love you. And I said, oh, are you trying to say I love you? And he said, yes. And then he smiled, and he went away, and I woke up, I felt like I was awake the whole time, and I felt like my dad was right next to me. But when I was up the next day, I was like, that is a terrible sign. Like, I knew something bad was going to happen. And
he was comforting you in advance.
Yeah. And 3 days later, she went to the hospital and never got out. And she wasn't doing that poorly. She was sick, but she was not sick. But as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, this is not good. So that noise is something else for me now. Oh.
And it's, yeah, I mean, there's, it's one of the things that is used in a lot of paranormal investigations as well, with like ghost boxes or, spirit boxes, scanning radios backwards. And, and there's the idea that, voices can come through the white noise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this is just happening in real life, like without even trying. And, my buddy Ron Solomon, who was on the show, it's been years. I got to talk to Ron again. It's been years since we talked about it, but he's got a very, like a phone call thing, and it's crazy. And then I believe Mindy White as well, who's been on the show. It's always very intense stuff when it's like, whether it's a call box at like an apartment and you're like, what is happening? Or like a phone call, or like this weird radio or an answering machine. And if you get we get random messages all the time, right? Like we get these spam or whatever, wrong numbers because people change cell phone numbers. When you get a message and it makes the hair on your neck stand up, that is not normal, right? I mean, there's something about that message that is so different than the standard wrong number message.
Right. Well, and this isn't quite the same, but I thought it was kind of strange. It was, my dad had passed. It was the year my dad had passed, and my mom's birthday was coming up. So it was going probably around a year since he'd been gone. And I'm in the basement doing laundry, and my mom did ceramics. So she had all these little music boxes that went into the ceramics. She hadn't used them in years. So it makes sense. They might be dying, like going bad and things go off. And I will tell you that I've been here all this time and I've never heard one before or since. But that day I'm down there, and I think it was the day before my mom's birthday, and one went off and it went, it was singing happy birthday. It sounded super effed up because it was dying. And it's in the basement, the day before my mom's birthday. And I was like, well, okay, Dad, I get it. Like I liked it. I thought it was sweet. However, shit got real creepy right after my dad died.
It's one of those things where, to me, I don't need any further explanation about obviously understanding that was your dad.
Yeah.
That one has not gone. I mean, if we had to guesstimate how many of them were down there,
probably about 10 were down there, and they had been down there for 20 years or something, and never, and I'm down there quite a bit doing laundry, and never once said I heard anything. Never once have I heard anything. They're still down there because I have far too much crap. But I just thought it was so strange. All of it.
Isn't it funny though how, and I don't know what I don't want to say the disconnect here, but it's a lost in translation thing sometimes when a spirit from the other side is trying to communicate with us, and and there's only, I guess, so many things they can do depending on who knows. There's all kinds of factors that I would not even begin to understand. But when they're trying to just reach out to us and say hello and let us know that they're thinking about us or that they love us or things like that, it's like, it's creepy.
Yeah.
It ends up being creepy. But I mean, we can feel okay about it.
Right.
Right. I mean, there's moments where I felt like, like my mom's dad, my grandpa, and nothing has been so overt or in my face that I'm like, oh, please don't do that. Or, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But it is, and it's usually just been a thing where like I'm hanging out with a psychic and they're like, your grandpa's right behind you. And I'm like, whoa, what? And I'll look like, what's going on? But it is funny though how there's this lost in translation where it comes off startling.
I mean, I kind of love it. I kind of am freaked out. I do wonder though, like, because there's long periods where nothing ever happens. And then there's also people who don't see anything. And then there's people who see a bunch of stuff. So that is interesting to me. But there's been enough here that's been seen by not just me. Like one time, both my ex-boyfriend and I saw a man in the basement at the same time. So I was like, okay, I am not going crazy because someone else saw it. Like we came in the house and thought there was an intruder in the garage, and there was no one out there. It was in my dad's like tool area. We looked at it earlier, where he fixed cars and stuff, and we saw a man in a red jacket. And then we went down there. I don't know what we thought we were doing. Like he had like a baseball bat and I had like a broom. And why didn't we call the police? I don't know what's wrong with us, but we went down there. There was no one down there, and they couldn't have gotten out because the door was broken. So, I mean, both of us saw it. There's been enough. We are not going crazy.
And what was the time frame? And that was like long after when you were 18, right?
Yes, that was long after. So I think my dad was here for quite a while. I don't think he was not a fan. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but that aunt was not a favorite of his. So I'm not sure if he went with her. And I also don't think that he probably felt like he could leave so soon, because my mom and I were kind of a wreck. So I have a feeling he was here for quite a few years, and then it kind of trailed off. Yeah. Until right around the time she was getting ready to go.
And I think probably too, a lot of the reasons in life that made us maybe not get along with other people instantly melt away upon the second you're dead, right?
Right.
Like, you kind of like get the big picture, kind of just like, we didn't get along because of why?
Right.
You know, that's not to say everything, right? But I mean, you do hear these interesting stories about, you know, through these books like Many Lives, Many Masters, and these other books where they talk about like, you know, souls and spirits or whatever in the in between live phases, and how, you know, it's everybody just kind of understands that, you know, they might not be like, oh, you're my favorite, let's do this again, but at the same time they're not like, oh my God, they're like, somebody get in between them, somebody stop them. But
right.
But it is interesting. I think probably you're right about the wanting to hang around and make sure you're okay part.
Yeah, I don't. And he was also very, very attached to this house. So that's one of the reasons. Like during the pandemic, got really obsessed with going outside and taking photos of trees and the sky. I was a photo major. I hated landscape photography. I hated it. And then during the pandemic, I got really into it. And then last year, I discovered that when it's cold out and you blow into the night air, you know, fog will happen. And if you take a photo into it, you get some really fucked up pictures. And there are lots of faces.
That is something that I think we should talk about. And real quick, just in case I need to throw another commercial or two in right now, let's take a quick second here, catch our breath. And if there's no commercial, hooray. But if there is, it'll go right here. Okay, so maybe there was a commercial, maybe there wasn't. I'm not 100% sure. I want to talk about this breath photography. I don't even know what we'd call it, or what. Do you have a name for this?
I mean, I call it, I call it the fog. But I think it's a type of scrying, because, you know, you are finding these images in, I don't know, you breathe out into this fog, and every time, not every time, but I would say out of 5 images, there are 2 that I'm like, what is that? And it very clearly looks like a face, and very clearly, sometimes I know them. Or it's someone that my mom knew, and that is very strange to me. And I love it, but I think it's connected to this house. And I enjoy doing it a fair amount, even though it creeps me out.
So this is something you discovered during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So you just have to have your phone ready when you breathe out.
Yeah.
Or, blow out when it's, below, I don't know what temperature. I mean, I think around like in the mid to low 40s at night is when you can start seeing your breath a little bit.
Right.
That is interesting because I've seen a lot of these photos. And there's some images where you're just like, okay, like you're just like, what? And I've never tried it, but I think since I'm going to be in Ohio over the holidays,
yes,
and it's already cold,
you've got to do it.
I got to try this. I would be interested for people listening to if you're in an area that is cold at night or during the winter anyway, where you can see your breath. What if they just started barking like like the dogs nonstop started barking for 5 minutes and we heard a loud bang? It's just like, well, that's not going to happen. It's going to be okay. Like talk about working we were talking about how you can work yourself up into a thing.
Right.
But I would be interested to see if other people can have any interesting results with this as well. So you call it the fog photography?
I do, yeah. I don't know. I've tried looking it up, and I don't really see a ton of people doing it. And I also see people, they're like, oh, that's pareidolia. Is that how you say it?
Pareidolia.
Yeah.
It's when, where you see faces and everything.
Right.
And, I understand that. I mean, it's like, I don't know 100% what the associated things with pareidolia is. But, I mean, anytime I'm in a bathroom that has like, not specifically uniform tile, right? If it's a weird kind of disjointed pattern kind of thing or splattery or almost it's just strange. Like I definitely can, I can see faces everywhere, and I can go back. I mean, in my old apartment, there are, and there's paint on the floor and things like that. And I can specifically remember there's like this one area where I'm like, oh, there's like 3 alien heads, right? And it's like, oh, those are clearly aliens.
Right.
And part of me was like, oh, I should just be tracing these everywhere I go and I see something, the faces, I should be tracing them. But, I mean, it's being able to pick up patterns. It's, looking for a pattern where one may not exist,
right.
Potentially. The brain wants for some kind of pattern or to make or a uniformity maybe, but what is life if we're not not everything is just chaos?
I mean, it is so strange that they are always in there, and that some of them look distinctly like family photos. They look distinctly like people that I know.
Are you setting an intention before you do it? Or are you ever saying, hey, can someone show me an image that would be identical to the image I have or anything like that?
I have not done that. Part of me is a little freaked out. But I should see what we get. I do that before I go to sleep. I like try to have interesting dreams, try to see people in my dreams, but I don't do that when I'm doing the fog.
Oh, so you'll before you fall asleep, you'll set an intention of some kind.
Yes, to try to see my mom or see my dad. My dad, I very rarely see. It's just those times. So it would be nice to see him on a good note when he's not bringing me a bad omen. But
yeah, and again, it's like that. It could be that lost in translation thing where he's like trying to do you a solid.
Right.
And little does he know that you figured out that whenever he does show up,
yeah,
that means he's trying to do you a solid because something bad or something sad is going or something is going to happen.
Yeah,
and and yeah, and it's just like, well, it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yep.
That is wild, though, that the I think people stumbling into kind of a magical way of living, or, stumbling into, like, I don't know, were you just struck by the thought one day, like, oh, I should take a photo of my breath while you were outside breathing, and looked at your breath?
Yes. It was weird.
Like, did you see something in real time, or?
No, I think I'm just an art major, and I was bored out of my mind. And I started taking photos of trees and in the sky, and I'd start seeing, I saw some things in the clouds, but really nothing happened until the fog. The fog was where it started. But I think I just was kind of transitioning into a new phase of photography, and I was looking for something new to try, and that was what I decided to try. And once I started to try that, I was like, oh shit, something weird is happening.
Well, it's like a combination of different things you love.
Yes, everything I love. And I was in St. Augustine for one day, and I took a photo. I was super lost. Everything was shut down. I was by myself, and it was so foggy, and I took a photo, and there is just this bust of what looks like it looks like the bust of a soldier. And like in the fog, there was nothing there. It was right next to a cemetery. It was so creepy. So it's not just here that it's happening. I do it other places, but here is, I'm here all the time. So this is where it happens most of the time.
That is really cool, though. I now I wonder, could you, like, on purpose, if someone said, hey, let's try to see if so-and-so, this person I know, will come through the fog.
Ooh,
for
yeah.
you. Or if it's something everyone can do, or something that you've been doing, so you're further along on it.
I bet
so you could specifically bring in other people's by request, like almost by request.
Oh, I
to a
bet
certain
everyone can do it. I bet. I don't know though. I don't know. You've got to try it. You got to.
Well,
tell
yeah.
me
I mean,
happens.
I'm going to be here all winter. I'm definitely going to try this.
Awesome.
I think the most well, that's not to say that they'd be more distinct than any other, but I think we all can think of distinct family members that we've lost, that if you saw something like in the fog, you'd be like, oh my God, that's my grandpa Bernie, or that's my grandpa Les, or, I think there's distinct people. Like if I saw my Uncle Phil in the fog, I would be like, that's my Uncle Phil, because my Uncle Phil's smoking a cigarette in the fog right now. Or, like something like that, right?
Right.
That would be incredible. Yeah, I do look forward to trying it.
Awesome.
I wonder what the temperature's going to be tonight. I'm sure it's going to be cold enough to do it.
Oh,
tonight.
yeah. Totally. Let me know.
Yeah, I will definitely be letting you know. And I'd be really interested to hear from listeners if they're having any success with this, and like especially seeing like a side-by-side comparison, because you're saying they look like family photos.
Not always. Some of them do. Some of them look like, I've had two now that I can hold them up side by side to family photos. I was like, what? Why does this look so familiar? And then I was like, oh, this is exactly my grandma and my dad as a little boy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like there's a timelessness to it as well.
Yes.
To where it doesn't need to be like them now, or what they look like at the moment of their passing.
Right. I don't know, man. This backyard is wild. It's also where she was like, I'm not going.
Oh, wait, what?
So it's the backyard. This is where the dog sitter was like, I am not staying out here.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I don't know if we talked about that.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
No, for a second there, I thought you were talking about like someone in your family was like, no, I'm not being buried in the backyard.
No. No one's buried in the backyard. Although there is a really cool Pine Grove Cemetery that's right across the street, right across the highway. There's like 12 people in it. It's ancient. I think the school teacher might be over there.
Oh, wow.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not doing yourself any, like, shutdowns over here. You're not trying to cleanse the place, shut it off, ward it up. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. It's not like you're trying to invite bad. Nothing like that.
All good. All good juju. Only good. But I was in a Zoom meeting at work one day, and one of the guys was like, who keeps poking their head around the corner over here? It was this corner. And I was like,
right there?
Yeah, right there. I was like, there is no one, like, my husband wasn't here, or I think he was upstairs. The dogs were outside. Like, the cat was upstairs. My kid was at school. There was no one here. And he is like, I keep seeing someone's head poke around. And that is the same corner that I have a friend who a different friend came to dog sit while we were on vacation. And she would not walk through that area. She just won't walk there. She's like, I don't know what's going on in that area, but I do not like it.
And that's the area that leads you right to the basement.
To the basement, yeah. And I have had dreams in that area where I just have my hands up and I just feel like there is power coming through my hands and my feet. I do not know what that means. But
so it's like an energy center.
Freaking cool, dude.
That is really cool. Now, you've lived an interesting life so far. You know lots of people that are, quote unquote, outside the beaten path of what everyone's like, I'm an accountant. Or, not that there's anything wrong with being an accountant, but like we're talking like, oddities and like carnies and all kinds of people. Sideshows. And so have you had anyone over here who's like psychic or identifies as deeply intuitive, and they're like, oh my God, and they start naming names, or like they've tried to identify like without even being asked?
I have not. I don't have a ton. I have a few friends who are kind of woo, but they are not deep in. And I don't have anyone who can name names, So I have thought about that being awesome. I've also never gone to a psychic that I really like. I've gone to a few, and I've always kind of felt like that wasn't the right person. So I think I need to find a really, really good. I thought about going to Karen Rontowski.
Oh yeah, Karen's great.
I think that might be the one. But someone that I can trust, that I would really like that, I think. But no one's been here.
They might even be able to communicate a message to Dad and be like, hey, pop in other times.
That would be rad.
So it doesn't always leave me with a feeling of dread and
Right. Right. That would be very nice, Dad. I would love that.
Oh, well, the house is amazing.
Thank you.
Pulling up to this place, you realize you don't even have to be into this stuff. If you pulled up to this place, you'd be like, this place is haunted. There's guaranteed 100%. This place is a haunted house. But it doesn't have the, oh my God, that place is haunted, I'm not going in there.
Well, that's good.
It has like, this is an old house. There's spirits here. It's, but not like a scary haunted house. Although at night, and the house has been making noises while we sit here. I don't know if the microphones are picking them up, but it's because the house is so old. 150 years old or whatever this place is.
Right.
And, great wood floors. And, like there's wooden shutters swinging back and forth outside on the window. It's not to mention all the porcelain babies that are strategically placed all around this place. There's just, there's all kinds of like antique-ish type old stuff happening inside the house.
Right.
And the land it's on, and the fresh water, the creek that's right outside, and all the transit and the traveling things that are happening around here. Makes it like a hub potentially of some kind. Multiple people have seen full body apparition type spirits here without being like, let's come over and see if we can see anything. Just normal everyday living stuff.
Yeah, my son also has been like, who's that little boy that was in the closet? And I was like, there is no little boy in the closet. What do you mean? And I quickly opened the closet. There's no little boy in the closet. And then he's like, oh, well, maybe I just have a interesting imagination. I was like, no, I think you're like your mother.
Well, I'm glad that was the phrasing.
Yeah.
Maybe I just have an interesting imagination as opposed to maybe I'm just crazy. It's like, well, you're way too young to be thinking you're crazy.
Right.
That's great. That's really cute. That's really cute. Well, Sarah, this has been great.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this has been fun. And thank you for helping out, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
So Sarah has been helping book guests and try to, keep my life together over here with the Mindcast, and been doing a great job. So the last handful of all the great interviews that have been coming your way, I think most, if not all of them, have been set up by you. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you.
It's been a great deep dive into this area of the country for me, getting to meet all these cool people in the Dayton, Ohio area. So it's been a lot of fun. And, so there's more great chats coming your way. So thanks again to the patrons, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month gets you all of the interviews and 30-year bonuses when I do those, ad-free. And all kinds of other, there's other things happening over there as well. Like I gave a sneak peek to patrons for Experience 2, the second episode of the Bridge Paranormal Doc series, which is out now. Episode 3 should be coming out soon, depending on when you're listening to this or when we put this up. So yeah, The Bridge. Check that out on YouTube. Share it around. I think it's, I think it's worth your time. I think it's an interesting paranormal docuseries that we've been making. So I hope you enjoy it. So thanks again. And Sarah, thank you.
Thank you.
What a cool house. And and to those listening, I really hope that we can maybe get some people sending us some interesting images of the fog.
Yes, I would love to see. Where will you post anything?
I'll post them on probably Instagram or definitely on the Patreon page.
Awesome.
And especially if I get some good ones.
Great.
As well.
I love it.
So awesome. So thanks for listening. I hope to see you. I'll be touring, I'm sure, in 2023. I don't know exactly. I don't have my calendar in front of me. I don't want to look at it right now. So I'll be back in Los Angeles. I'll be doing shows there. I hope to see you at a live stand-up comedy show sometime. And oh my God, I got all kinds of updates. I'm going to Colorado to a place. It's a cattle mutilation ranch.
Oh.
I'll be there for about a week and a half.
Sweet.
That's happening very, very soon. Greg Feynman, if you've listened to the show, who's been on a bunch of episodes. Anyway, I'm going to the location we've been talking about in, I think, 4 or 5 different interviews. So I'll keep you updated on that as well. Okay, so if I don't see you somewhere out there, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.